Evening all. So my name's Paul Jepson. Something I quite like doing in my spare time or when I'm thinking is thinking about why do some species become iconic and other species don't. So if I asked you, how many animal icons have we got out there in the world? Anybody want to pitch in a suggestion? No, how many? I said, not just the one. Roughly 10, 100? 1,000, 5,000? I'm afraid I don't know. But hopefully by Christmas we will know, because we've just scraped the web to try and find out. But actually, when I've been thinking about this, every time we ask that question, you start off thinking there's loads of them. But actually, you start coming back to the same ones again and again. And it seems that actually animal icons are quite a rare thing out there. So I want to come in with this. So why is this the animal icon of extinction? Why aren't we looking at a fabulous moa bird? Or our own extinct flightless bird, the great auk? Or why aren't we looking at something really glorious like the Norfolk Island kaka? Why is it that the dodo is there and we're thinking about it and from this perspective as the icon of extinction? I think we're getting at why here in this discussion because it has inhabited multiple stories. It's been around, if you like, in the human imagination. But then it comes to the question of, but why the dodo? Why was the dodo able to inhabit all of these different stories? And I'll suggest that, I'll just throw out 4 or 5 reasons why that might be. I think one reason is that it was the first bird which, we knowingly caused the extermination of it. But I think there's other things about that bird which have helped it to inhabit stories. One is its size. So if you think about it now, it's just that perfect size. It's small enough to be part of a group, but big enough to be a character. Yeah? So it can fit into those paintings, it can fit into those groups Kirsten was talking about. Sometimes when I'm walking around the museum and looking at other objects here, I think about the albatross, and the albatross just having that perfect size in a museum and in a story. It's not big and dominating like the big skeletons out here, the old mammoth skeletons and so forth. But it's big enough that you sort of think, oh yeah, it's there, and you take notice of it. It sits well within stories. Second, which we've all touched on, it's got a pretty quirky phenotype, hasn't it? Yeah? On a ranking of 1 to 10, what do you think? Definitely up there, 8, 9 in terms of quirkiness. And there is something about us humans. We do love quirkiness in stories. Jeremy Vine's dancing? Strictly just wouldn't have been the same story this year without him, would it? Yeah? We bring in quirkiness into our stories, and it's got that part of the phenotype. Thirdly, and I was trying to capture this in this sketching here, it's got that aura of helpless maladaptation. This is the panda thing. There's something about it when things just, something went wrong in it. We bring them into our compassion and our stories, and they stick in our mind. Fourth, I think another reason why this might have become the icon and inhabited those stories is because getting close to a dodo was always a very rare experience. It was, rare to see it, who got to Mauritius, but equally when it came over here, it was a very rare thing to see, or as it became very rare museum exhibits. You needed to live in Oxford to get access to those exhibits. You need to have good connections with friends like Paul to get access and get close to these specimens, that get close to the essence of the dodo. And I think that probably gave it some sort of cachet amongst writers and thinkers and scientists at the time. You're getting close to something which very few people had. It had that sort of prestige and privilege to it. And lastly, there's the name. As my students will tell you, I'm not very good at remembering names. But dodo, no problem. Yeah? It just sticks in your mind. It's perfect. So the point I'm getting at here is that because of these characteristics, these traits of the dodo, it was able to become long-term inhabitants of stories, such that when we got the rise of journalism in the 19th century, And when we got that rash of extinctions coming through in the late 19th century, those stories being reported in the news about the loss of the passenger pigeon, the loss of the great auk or whatever, that evidence, that fact, through the dodo, could connect with stories and multiple knowledge practices. So that news about extinction didn't just come in, oh, it's news. It came in, oh, hang on, I've heard about the dodo. And through the dodo, it fed in, the concept of extinction fed in to all of these different branches of cultured thinking and life, you know, from high science to gluttony or whatever. And that means for me that with that sort of assembly, connective action of the dodo, the story of the dodo became more of a story, more than a story, rather. It became what we call a frame. And a frame is a particular type of story. It's a constellation of ideas, metaphors, experiences, which we bring together to make sense and act within a complex world. Frames like freedom, aid, terrorism, how we as humans make sense of complexity. And frames are particularly powerful forms of stories, because not only do they enable us to make sense, they enable us to collectively act. And maybe this is where we start thinking about the significance of the dodo as an icon and its connective role in this. Extinction was a really powerful frame, because in terms of perhaps our own human morality, it started saying that we had moral duties to knowingly avoid the extinction of other species, that through human actions it was not right to exterminate other life forms. Now that was quite a radical frame when it was starting to come in, when we think that perhaps the dominant frame at that time, or at least this old established frame, that only God can destroy what he has created. So it's always to see for me that this story of the dodo is a very influential frame, and it's a frame which has then sort of gone through into the creation of red lists of extinction, into species protection law. In many ways, it has helped co-produce our modern institutions of conservation. So what's the dodo's future as an icon? We can say it's an icon of extinction now, and perhaps it has been for 130, 140 years. Is it going to still be that icon of extinction going ahead? If we all turned up again, if we could turn up again, I can't, in 50 or 100 years' time, will it be a dodo up there which we're thinking about with extinction? Well, if I could get this to work, oh, it's that one. I think it's got a challenger at the moment. And that's perhaps because the big exciting new idea now is that may not be as dead as a dodo, extinction may not be forever, maybe through science we can start doing de-extinction. And the mammoth is rapidly becoming the icon of de-extinction. And we could actually talk about all of the different places and different stories which the mammoth occupies. And it seems that this is starting to create this new redemptive frame linked to extinction. So what I'm going to and the point here, of course, is that the dodo can never be resurrected, because the extinction of the dodo has gone so far that there is just no DNA left of it. In contrast, the mammoth, I mean, the DNA is a bit of a mess, but techniques are getting to the state where the mammoth genome is starting to be reconstructed. We could never do that with the dodo. So the dodo can never transform to become an icon of de-extinction, whereas the mammoth could actually do both. So what I'm going to throw out here, and maybe this is something we might end up discussing, is that while dead as a dodo is a truism, but I'm not sure that it will continue the dodo as an icon into the future. I think actually that the dodo as a cultural icon may be slipping towards extinction. Thank you.